Security. That was the first thing they said. Not welcome, not can I help you? Just that. The word cut across the glass-paneled lobby of the West Pier Convention Center like a fire alarm. Half the people in line turned to look. The other half pretended not to. It was 9:42 a.m. The first keynote wasn't until 10. And yet the most shocking thing in the building wasn't a product or a pitch. It was a black woman in heels, standing exactly where they didn't expect her to be. Asha Monroe. Founder. CEO. Keynote speaker. And that morning, invisible. At least, invisible in the way that makes people uncomfortable. Too confident. Too calm. Too in control. She stood just inside the entrance to Founders Row, a gated section of the expo reserved for premium-level leadership access only. She had already scanned her badge. Already cleared security. Already passed the digital kiosk that flashed her name across a welcome screen. But to the white man with the clipboard standing beside the velvet rope, she was a problem. "Ma'am," he said, walking toward her, "you can't be here." She turned her head, slightly. "Excuse me? This space is restricted. For startup founders only." Asha held up her badge. Platinum lanyard. CEO designation. QR verified. He didn't even read it. "You must be lost. This section's for company leaders, not attendees. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had someone look through you, not because they were busy, but because their mind decided you don't belong here before you even spoke? Have you ever had to explain your existence in a room you paid to be in, built to be in, fought to be in, while someone with less talent and more bias told you to leave? Then you already know what this story is. This isn't about being denied a hallway. It's about being denied recognition." And what Asha did next wasn't loud, but it was final. The man waved over staff. "We've got an issue at the front. Badge mismatch." "I scanned in already," Asha said, calm. He shook his head like she was a child trying to sneak into a movie theater. "No problem. We'll reprint you something for general access." She didn't move. Didn't raise her voice. Just said, slowly, "I'm one of your headline speakers." A woman from registration stood, glanced at her badge, then said, still smiling, "That must be a glitch. Those are normally reserved for founders." And that was the moment Asha realized something deeper. They weren't just mistaken. They refused to believe it could be her. Security arrived. 2 men in suits. Nothing threatening, not yet. One of them asked her to just step out for a moment while they confirmed credentials. She didn't. Instead, she asked a single question. "Who runs this event's venue lease?" The registration woman blinked. "Sorry?" "The lease," Asha repeated. "Who signed the venue agreement for this space?" The woman hesitated. "I think our operations team did. Through East Bay Property Holdings." Asha smiled. Cold. Calculated. Then she reached for her phone. 9:47 a.m. On the sidewalk outside, Asha made a 45-second call. To a private acquisitions liaison at Monroe Catalyst Fund, the capital firm she'd founded 3 years ago. What most people didn't know was that Monroe Catalyst didn't just fund tech startups. It owned real estate. Commercial properties. Hotels. Warehouses. And, as of 14 months ago, the majority stake in East Bay Property Holdings. Which meant the expo didn't just embarrass a CEO. They embarrassed their own landlord. "Pull the lease," she said on the call. "Invoke the default clause." "Effective when?" Asha looked at her watch. 30 minutes. Back inside, the event buzzed on like nothing happened. Founders pitched in front of LED walls. Investors clinked glasses of mineral water and made empty promises. And in the corner, the same man who'd waved her away bragged to another attendee about how they had to bounce someone trying to fake a sponsor badge. He didn't know. No one knew that in just a few minutes, the event manager would get a call from East Bay Properties stating that their contract had been terminated for violation of access terms, that the space would be reclassified as non-compliant due to discriminatory gatekeeping, that a new agreement would be drafted under revised conditions, or the expo would be shut down mid-session. 9:59 a.m. Asha walked calmly back through the front doors, past the same rope, past the same stunned staff, and handed a printed document to the lead coordinator. "Here's your updated venue agreement," she said. "You'll be working directly with me from now on." The woman blinked. "Wait. I thought you were." "I am," Asha said. "I'm the one who owns this building." And that was just the beginning. 10:04 a.m. The email hit inboxes like a digital thunderclap. Subject: Urgent, Venue Contract Update, East Bay Ownership Transfer Notification. Before anyone could finish reading, their screens pinged again. Follow up: Do not deny entry TO badge holder, Monroe Properties controlling stake confirmed. The irony? They tried to keep her out. Now they couldn't move a mic stand without her permission. Inside Founders Row, the energy shifted fast. People whispered. Eyebrows lifted. Phone screens lit up as the story began to spread, first across the venue, then online. Asha didn't have to raise her voice. Her silence did the work. She walked past the registration table, down the carpeted aisle, and straight to the stage where she was scheduled to speak, before she was escorted out like a fraud. Now, they were scrambling to reintroduce her. The event coordinator, a nervous man named Brent in a fitted gray suit, practically jogged to catch up. "Ms. Monroe, I'm so sorry. There was a miscommunication." She didn't stop walking. "Are you suggesting my badge didn't scan correctly?" He laughed nervously. No, it scanned fine. There was just some confusion at the entrance. Temp staff, you know. Volunteers. Not properly briefed." "Ah," Asha said. "So the racial profiling was a clerical error." He paled. "I didn't mean." "You didn't have to," she replied. She reached the speaker green room, opened the door, and turned back to him. "I'll go on stage at 10:30. Don't try to adjust the schedule without asking me." And with that, she closed the door in his face. Inside, the walls were thin. She could still hear them outside, the buzzing. She owns the building? Wait, that's Asha Monroe? Didn't she just sell her startup for, like, $200 million? She looks different than I expected. That last part stung more than it should have. Because she knew exactly what they meant. Meanwhile, across the event floor, a group of angel investors gathered at the private catering bar. 5 men, 1 woman. All pale-faced. All tense. One of them, Matt Childers, who'd once sat across from Asha at a funding round and called her a bit too intense for long-term growth, looked like he'd swallowed glass. "She's going to bury us," he muttered. Another guy shook his head. "Not unless we get ahead of it." "Do what?" the woman snapped. "Tweet an apology?" "She doesn't want an apology," Matt said. "She wants a reckoning." And they were right. Just not in the way they feared. 10:29 a.m. The ballroom lights dimmed. A digital intro video played across the LED walls, images of women founders, rising graphs, satellite launches, and the words "Build Different" pulsing with music. Then Asha walked on stage. She didn't smile. Didn't thank the hosts. Didn't even look at the teleprompter. She walked to the center, stood tall, and began. "This morning, I was escorted out of this building, the one I own, because someone decided I didn't look like I belonged in the founders section. That same someone didn't scan my badge. Didn't check my profile. Didn't ask. He assumed." She let the words settle. You could hear someone breathing in row 3. "You want to talk about innovation? Let's start with accountability. Because you can build all the apps you want. But if you keep building them in rooms that look the same, sound the same, and treat power like a private club, you're not innovating. You're just replicating the same bias, with better fonts. Someone gasped. Others started clapping. She raised her hand gently. It quieted. The future doesn't care about your hoodie, or your pitch deck, or how many NFTs you owned before the crash. The future cares about who you let in. And from now on, we're letting ourselves in. By the time she stepped off stage, the applause was standing. A few people clapped because they agreed, but more clapped because they were afraid not to. Back in the green room, Lena, her chief of staff, held out her phone. It's already online. The speech? Leaked. Streaming. Clipped. Captioned. Viral. Millions of views. But more interesting? The emails. Subject, meeting request, Monroe Ventures. From companies that ignored her last year. From VCs that once told her, we're looking for founders with more cultural fit. Now, they wanted to talk. Asha set the phone down. You know what the difference is between now and yesterday? She asked. Lena raised an eyebrow. Asha smiled, just barely. Yesterday, they thought I was trying to earn a seat at the table. Today, they realize I built the building. It wasn't just a viral moment anymore. It was a movement. Within 48 hours of Asha Monroe's keynote, hashtags like #LetUsBuild, #WeOwnRoomsNow, and #MonroeMethod had overtaken tech Twitter and LinkedIn. Her DMs exploded. So did her press inbox. Journalists requested interviews. Investors sent apologies. And dozens of overlooked founders, mostly black women, mostly brilliant, mostly ignored for years, began tagging her in pitch videos and prototypes. But Asha didn't want apologies. She wanted infrastructure. And that's exactly what she started building. On Tuesday, she unveiled it quietly on a live stream. Introducing the Vault. A venture-backed, founder-led accelerator. Built by those who were locked out, for those who were done knocking. The Vault wasn't about applications. It was about invitations. Asha didn't want founders who knew how to play the game. She wanted the ones who'd been punished for refusing to play it. By Thursday, the Vault had raised $37 million from aligned funds and angel donors, and that was just phase 1. Phase 2? Turning Founders Row into Monroe Row. Same square footage. New blueprint. Asha released renderings of a year-round innovation center, co-working floors, free child care for single mother founders, pitch theaters without panels, and conference rooms where funding terms were written by those actually in the room. The reaction? Polarized. The people who understood. Cried. The ones who didn't. Panicked. That's when the twist came. His name was Derek Langston. VC partner at Echelon Capital. Polished. White. 42, wore sneakers with a suit and made everyone call him D. Asha hadn't seen him in 5 years. Not since he sat across from her in a Series A meeting and told her, "You're impressive, but you're not scalable. Markets prefer predictability." Now he was waiting in her lobby. He brought flowers. And a proposal. "You didn't even reply to my email," he said, sliding a deck across her conference table. She didn't touch it. "You made your opinion clear the last time we spoke," Asha said. He smiled, a little too easily. "And I was wrong. The world's changed." "No," Asha said. "I changed it. And you watched." Derek leaned forward. "Look, I get it. You don't owe me anything. But this new incubator? The Vault? It's gonna need scale. Ops. Strategy. Capital." He paused. "Let me help you build it." Asha raised an eyebrow. "Out of guilt?" "Out of respect," he said. "And, maybe a little desperation." That part felt honest. But something about his tone didn't sit right. She folded her hands. What's the catch, Derek? He hesitated. Too long. Then finally said, Echelon's in trouble. Bad quarter. 2 major clients pulled out after your speech. My partners want me to broker peace or control damage. There it was. He didn't come to support her. He came to contain her. Asha stood. Walked to the window. Then turned back. You're not here to help me build. You're here to license my name, quiet the wave, and make your people feel safe again. He didn't deny it. He just said, Can you blame us? She nodded slowly. I can. That night, she went live again, no makeup, no lighting. Just truth. They still think this is about a building, she said. They still think it's about a speech. They still think I'll trade justice for attention. She paused. I'm not here to calm them down. I'm here to lift us up. The anonymous email had no signature. Just a subject line. Thought you'd want to know what Derek's planning. And an attachment. A screen recording. Grainy, taken through glass. Derek Langston, sitting in a dim office, voice low but audible, speaking to a group of Echelon partners on a Zoom call. If we can't get her to slow down, we'll lose 1/3 of our pipeline. So we either partner with her and dilute her message, or we starve her. Control supply lines. Quietly block her access to infrastructure and vendors. She's brilliant, but she's built this on speed. We play the long game. She'll wear out. He leaned back and laughed lightly. Every movement needs oxygen. Let's cut the airflow. Asha watched the clip twice. No rage. Just that deep, familiar feeling in her gut, the one that said, They still think I'm temporary. But this time? She had more than a vision. She had proof. The next morning, she dropped the clip anonymously, through an influencer she trusted. One who didn't ask questions. One who knew the stakes. Within 2 hours, it was viral. Not just trending, burning. The caption? White VC caught on tape planning to starve black founders' new accelerator. #starve her trended within minutes. Only this time, it didn't silence her. It multiplied her voice. Meanwhile, Derek's inbox collapsed. Echelon's office was swarmed by reporters. And Amara Monroe? She didn't blink. Instead, she posted something simple. They thought they could starve me. But I was raised on nothing. So everything I build now is a feast. 3 days. That's how long it took for the smear campaign to begin. Anonymous sources began calling reporters, whispering about Asha's leadership style. Words like abrasive, impatient, unstable. Then came the op-ed, and signed, claiming she only rose because she weaponized identity. Then the fake story. A former co-founder, long since bought out, suddenly claiming she'd stolen the idea from Monroe Catalyst Fund and bullied him into silence. It was all paper thin. But it wasn't meant to be true. It was meant to make her bleed. But Asha didn't retreat. She accelerated. The vault announced a full rollout across 3 cities, Atlanta, Oakland, and Detroit. Over 9,000 founders applied. And 60% of them were women who had never been funded. This wasn't charity. This was capital, redirected. And the people who once overlooked her, now they were asking to be seen. But then came the wall. Vendors dropped out. Landlords stalled lease approvals. A national bank suddenly froze one of her holding accounts for a compliance check that made no sense. It was a pattern. A whisper campaign turned infrastructure into sabotage. They couldn't stop her with doubt. So they tried to stop her with inconvenience. She gathered her senior team. 4 women. 1 non-binary founder. All brilliant. All angry. We can't open if we don't have vendors, said Priya, head of logistics. Or if we can't lease a space for Detroit, added Lena. They want you off balance, someone else said. Asha stood. Tired. Unblinking. Still fire. They want me to burn out, she said. So we're going to burn brighter. The next day, Asha launched the buyback pledge. A direct challenge. Every founder who's ever been denied a loan, rejected from a lease, or pushed out of a platform, we're buying back your tools. $1,000 at a time. She dropped $2 million of her own capital on day one. Then publicly challenged 20 VCs and 5 Fortune 500s to match her. The tagline? If you were ever told you didn't belong in the room, this is your key to the front door. The response? Mixed. Some called it inspiring. Others called it dangerous. One business outlet ran a piece titled, "Asha Monroe, is she saving the system or setting it on fire?" And that's when she did the unthinkable. She released the list. A database of every institution that denied funding to BIPOC founders with the same metrics as white applicants who were approved. Backed by receipts. Loan data. Emails. Meeting notes. It didn't leak. She published it herself. Silicon Valley cracked. Panelists canceled events. Investors locked Twitter. Asha's name was on every front page, again. And one thing became crystal clear. She wasn't trying to fix the old game anymore. She was dismantling it. Late one night, Lena came into her office. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. This might make you untouchable." Asha looked up from her desk. "No," she said. "It's going to make me unforgettable." The headlines weren't shocked anymore. They were reverent. Asha Monroe reshapes the tech industry from the outside in. From ejected to elevated, how one woman turned power inside out. Forget unicorns. Monroe's building keys. But Asha didn't celebrate. Because this was never about a headline. It was about healing the architecture. 6 months after the expo, Monroe Row was fully operational. 3 cities. 87 companies and residents. Dozens of them already funded, by people who used to only back apps designed by the same 10 faces. The vault had its own fund now, seeded by Asha, and fueled by those who finally saw what they'd been blind to. And what mattered most? The room looked different. Brown, black, immigrant, queer, neurodiverse. Mothers. Caretakers. People who once walked past these spaces and assumed they didn't belong. Now, they ran them. At the new expo, hosted this time at her own headquarters, Asha took the stage again. This time there was no tension. Just truth. She didn't speak from behind a podium. She walked among the crowd, mic in hand. "I want to tell you something," she said. "Not as a CEO. Not as a founder. But as someone who remembers what it felt like to stand at a velvet rope while someone tried to shrink me." She paused. "I didn't break into this industry. I outgrew the walls they put around it." She turned slowly. "And now I'm asking you, everyone watching this, in every city, in every industry, what room have you been told you don't belong in? And why are you still waiting for someone to open the door?" The silence was holy. "And now, I want to speak directly to you, wherever you're watching this from. Maybe it's on a train. Maybe in a small apartment, filled with dreams they told you were too big for someone like you. Maybe you're building something quietly, wondering if it'll ever be seen. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been dismissed without being heard? Judged before being welcomed? Shut down before you even had the chance to shine? Then you already know this story. Because Asha Monroe isn't a myth. She's a mirror. And what she did, you can do too. You don't need a building. You need a moment. You don't need permission. You need resolve. So if this story hit you, speech balloon, tell us where you're watching from. Loudspeaker, share it with someone who's tired of waiting. Bellhop bell, subscribe if you believe stories like this don't just deserve to be heard. They deserve to be remembered. Because next time someone tells you, you don't look like you belong here, you'll already know the answer. That's because this room isn't finished yet. I'm here to finish building it.